Uh, Today, joining me on the podcast is none other than Ryan Jankowski, one of Perth's biggest flyweights up and coming now. Now, all I got to say is right off the bat, um, you've got some serious guts going into Eternal straight away, coming in from a solid kickboxing background, man. And then the way you fought in your last fight, I was really impressed. Now, I'm going to say, man, you're 23, 22?
Yeah, 23. Yeah, just turned 23 in April.
Yeah. So what made you want to go up at such a young age?
Yeah, well, we started doing martial arts at a young age. We started Judo in primary school, just once a week, every Wednesday. We'd be at our primary school in the Canton area. And then, yeah, we got into MMA, watching The Ultimate Fighter, and that's what got us into loving MMA. Was watching The Ultimate Fighter smashes in 2012, the UK versus England. And then I reckon a year later, we joined up at Woolston and started training jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, sort of love martial arts, MMA.
And how many years were you training at the Woolston for before you had your first fight?
So I was at Woolston, joined up Woolston in start of 2014, and then we weren't only training maybe once a week, twice a week in high school. And then after high school, we started training a bit more. And then I joined the army in 2017 and moved over east. I was living in Townsville, and I was training there, and that's where I had 4 Muay Thai fights while I was over living in Queensland.
Wow. You joined the army in 2017, so you must have been, 18 at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that like, man? What was it like joining up at such a young age?
Yeah, it was a good experience. Met some real good mates. I was missing home for sure at a young age, but yeah, it was good. Had its moments.
That's okay. So you joined the army, and how many did you do? A certain amounts of training, or did you serve? Like, what was the story?
Yeah, so I did 4 years as a rifleman, and I was basically just like a driver. So I drove like an APC, just like an armored personal carrier. But then I was training at a Courage Training Centre, and I was mainly just training boxing and Muay Thai, and that's where I competed and had 4 Muay Thai fights under Courage Training Centre, which it was good.
That's awesome, man. So you come out of the army and you're doing Muay Thai fights. So let's rewind the clocks back to your first Muay Thai fight. Tell me, what was the build up to it, and what was it like going through that first fight?
Yeah, it wasn't too much of a build up, just training like normal really, and then going in, stepping in, competing, just good experience. Just go out and enjoy it really.
So for someone who's come from a judo background before he went into the Woolston, what made you want to go ahead with Muay Thai instead? Did you ever compete in judo?
Yeah, we did. At a very young age, probably like 8 or 9. And then even like Frank, my twin, and myself, sometimes like competing against each other in comps. We'll probably compete 2 to 3 times a year maybe.
Very nice. And when you go through your Muay Thai fights, now when you compete at Internal, you fight at flyweight. And is it the same for Muay Thai, or is it a different weight category?
So it was a different weight. So all my Muay Thai fights were same day weigh-in. So my first Muay Thai was 63, and then my second was 61 kilos. Third was 63 again, and then my fourth one was 62.
Wow. Okay. So when you are competing in Muay Thai, was there much of a weight cut for you?
A kilo, not even, no, wasn't a weight cut.
Nothing. Okay, very nice. And when you were like there on the day, so you waited in on the day, was that any much of a different experience to you compared to when you competed at Eternal? Do you have to go through a bit of a weight cut and then you weigh yourself the day before? Yeah.
Yeah, so for my MMA fights, that was an actual weight cut. It was pretty easy, both of them, but the Muay Thai is just basically wake up, don't have breakfast, and then be on weight.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. And what about when it comes to Eternal? Is there much of a weight cut for you to get to flyweight?
Yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So cut down on the carb intake, like a calorie deficient diet, which when I'm eating, but it's pretty easy to make 57.
Mm-hmm.
My last fight was 58, but
that's good. That's
not too.
That's okay. I was gonna say now, based on that last fight that you had. By the way, I got to tell a little bit of a story of the fight. One of the reasons why I wanted to get you on was because personally, I'm here a coach at the UFC gym in Balcatta. And then over the commentary we had, I believe it was Brett who was saying, oh, he's done a little, Ryan's done a little bit of work here at the UFC gym. And I was like, what? I remember you must have came in here one day and you guys were all sparring around in the cage. And I had no idea that was you. And then it was right up until I watched the replay of Eternal. He said, Brett said, shout out to Jason and Joe from the UFC gym. And I was like, well, I got to get this guy on. So that's one of the main reasons. Anyway, man, so let's rewind the clocks back a little bit, okay? You're competing in judo and all that, and then somewhere down the line, you made it into the Wolves Den. Why was it that you went with that gym specifically? And was it, what was the biggest experience coming out of that gym?
Yeah, we're just looking at MMA gyms, really. Gyms that offered jiu-jitsu and striking and MMA. And it was the closest to my house, the gym lot, because I'm living in Carnarvon at the Luca, just down the road. And that was 2014, and we just tried it out and then joined up from there. Started, I think, jiu-jitsu, in the first class we tried. And then that's when we started training jiu-jitsu and then a bit of striking.
That's good to hear, man. How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for?
On and off. When I joined the army, I had a bit of time off, but that would have been 6 years, but on and off.
Yeah. And did you ever do the gi, or was it no gi? What was the story?
Sometimes, rarely gi. Mainly no gi. I've competed once in gi. Yeah. And then just rarely. I need to train more gi, but mainly no gi lately, and just the MMA and wrestling classes.
That's good to hear, man. So you said you competed once in the gi, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was that? What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was good. That was in Townsville, and I did gi and no gi. And then good experience. I won all the matches. Got gold in gi, gold in no gi, just in the white belt division. And then the weekend after that, I fought Muay Thai. I had my third Muay Thai fight.
Wow. So you literally went from one competing in BJJ one weekend and then going straight into a Muay Thai the next week. How did you make the transition that quickly?
Just gone with the flow, just training jiu-jitsu, training Muay Thai, just getting ready to compete, train enough, put the hours in, and go out, enjoy it.
Yeah, good job, man. Good job. So there's a few things I wanted to ask you about when it comes to competing. Now, one thing from my experience in studying and all that is a lot of professional athletes, they like to go through some form of, performance routine where it's the week before the fight, they have a little routine or ritual that they go through, or it could be something like that on the day. And usually they find that it helps them mentally towards the day. So let me just ask you, let's say if when you're competing on the weekend or it's the day of the fight, is there anything that you do pretty much almost religiously before every fight?
No, there hasn't been.
No?
What I can think of, no.
Yeah. Do you just go just build straight up into it and then just go right in, ready to go?
Yeah, you have to sort of mentally prepare going in, competing, going and fighting. But just, it becomes pretty overwhelming, all the nerves, but just trying to relax and enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy everything, even all the nerves. Try to, try to go out there and just,
make the most of it. I understand. Well, I would definitely say watching that last fight for you, when you actually walked out, I actually the way that you composed yourself, the way that you held yourself going towards the cage was actually really impressive. You were very calm. And then I thought, blimey, this kid's only 20, and I thought you're only 23, and how you look like you were really experienced. You look like you knew that you were going in there and you were getting the job done. What was and unfortunately, of course, it didn't go your way on the judges, but what was the biggest lesson that you learned from that fight?
Yeah, biggest lesson is maybe I need to work a lot more on my wrestling, and also going out there, and also I should have implemented my wrestling maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not accepting positions when it was maybe, not accepting positions. But I just need to work on, because he was a good grappler, my grappling, my wrestling more.
That's good to hear. And so now that that's happened, has that been the case for you in your training lately? Have you upped your grappling game? Yeah. What have you done?
Yeah. So I'm just training more jiu-jitsu, more wrestling. I've also actually brought in a new wrestling coach for Tuesdays now, which is good.
Mm-hmm. And who's the coach?
Alan, and he's the coach from Gladiator Wrestling Gym.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of Gladiator Wrestling Gym. Whereabouts is that?
I'm not too sure. I think south of the river, maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked in.
Okay, that's cool. So let's also talk about what's going on for you now. Like, what's the next move for you? Do you have another fight booked, or is there anyone in particular?
No, not
yet. Okay. So what is
hopefully end of the year.
Hopefully
end of the year. Wouldn't mind another MMA, but also wouldn't mind another Muay Thai, which would be good.
Do you feel like that's the best thing for you to keep yourself busy, or keep yourself active, fighting Muay Thai?
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind maybe trying out boxing, amateur boxing maybe, as a fight. But just getting the experience in.
I can definitely see that working for you, 100%. Well, mainly because there's a lot of cross-transition. So it's very easy to transition from someone who's got Muay Thai over to boxing, considering you've already got half of the work already nailed down, especially with footwork, switching stances, hand speeds, head movements, and all that. So I can definitely see that going for you. Now, but one thing I also wanted to ask you, do you plan to stay at flyweight, or are you hoping to maybe bump up to another division, or what's your game plan?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe fighting at 61, but like 57, flyweight's an easy weight cut. I'm not shoving too hard, but yeah, maybe 61, 57.
That's good to hear. Now, also I wanted to ask as well, considering now this weekend, I wanted to move on to some more UFC MMA stuff. I wanted to ask you, is this weekend we've got the return of TJ Dillashaw, and he's taken on Corey Sandhagen. I wanted to ask you, man, considering you're a flyweight, and I believe they're fighting at bantamweight, so that's just above you in terms of weight. Who do you think is going to win, and why?
It's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm really keen. TJ Dillashaw, he's an animal, but also Sandhagen lately, he finishes with a spinning heel kick against Marais, and then he finally against Frankie. I reckon Sandhagen. It might go to 5 rounds, but I reckon it'll be a finish. I reckon Sandhagen by knockout or TKO. I reckon maybe like the 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, I agree. I don't, it's a fight especially TJ Dillashaw, when he comes from such a strong kickboxing background, when he used to train at Team Alpha Male, and then he moved over. And then we got Corey Sandhagen, who's pretty much on a rise after his loss to Aljamain Sterling, which for him, he said was embarrassing. I do definitely agree with you on Sandhagen. However, I don't think it's going to come that later on in the fight. I've got a prediction it might happen around that 2nd round, because that 2nd round really is deadly this year, Everyone seems to be going down in the second. Everyone seems to be going down in the 2nd round this year. So also, we also now recently have, we had the Dustin Poirier versus McGregor fight, which I'm sure you watched. Now I'm going around asking everyone this, but what's your response to him, about the whole leg break? Do you think he really did it in training? Do you think it's a good excuse? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, he posted those photos, like it could have been a recurrent injury, just above his ankle, maybe stress fractures, but yeah, maybe it was. I think it was like the checks maybe in the fight, but I also reckon ankle would have been like bugging him in training, maybe. Yeah, he had those photos on the social media, like his foot wrapped up and his foot in the ice bath and all those photos. So yeah, probably from training and then also leading into the fight, just those checks, maybe kicked an elbow or two. Yeah.
That's okay. And from someone such as yourself who comes from a Muay Thai background, have you ever used leg kicks as part of your game plan, or what's the story?
Yeah, no, not really. Usually before fight, before my Muay Thai fights, just do a lot of checking myself before I get in there to remember the checks so I don't get hit with a ton of leg kicks. Or just go out there and enjoy myself.
Good man. And for someone, who's come from all these different combat sports of a background, and now since we're on the topic of leg breaks and injuries, have you ever had any kind of injuries before?
No, not really. No injuries. Never broken any bones.
That's good to hear. Yeah, that's good to hear down the line, because for something like that, for someone to break their leg like that, and then especially in the fight, we've seen it before with Chris Weidman, with Anderson Silva, and now just the way that he responded was very different to the way normally. He's not very. He used to be very humble in defeat, but now he is saying to Dustin Poirier's wife, your wife's in my DMs, mate. I'll see you at the after party, which I thought was very different.
Anyway, he should have stayed, I reckon. He should have stayed how he acted in the second fight. Just humble.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, that's the next thing I wanted to ask you. Like, do you feel like the beef is settled, or do you feel like that should be the end on the trilogy, or do you reckon they should have a fourth fight?
I reckon they should have a fourth fight, but a few years down the line, I reckon McGregor should have a tune-up fight. Even the Nate Diaz trilogy, or whoever, someone in the top 10 in the lower division, and then if he gets to win, then get the fourth match with Dustin.
But I can definitely see that.
It'll take him a while.
Yeah.
If it does happen, it'll take a while, 2 years down the line.
Because to come back from a leg break injury, I would say you definitely need a little bit of time off. And also, I believe that Poirier, there's been a lot of rumors lately that Poirier will be fighting against Oliveira for the title, hopefully in December.
Yeah, December. That's what I heard as well.
Yeah, and they're looking to put, Chandler against Gagey at some point, which is honestly the wrestler's dream, considering they both have very similar styles. So I can definitely see that happening. Now,
for sure.
Cool. Now, I wanted to ask you, man, like, since we're on those topics, like, what's your dream matchup, man? Which two fighters would you like to see fight the most?
In any division? Lower division?
Any division, man. Any division, man.
John Jones against the heavyweight, like Ngannou would be up there. Jones fighting for the heavyweight title.
What do you think's going on with John Jones right now? Sorry, I was going to say, what do you think is going on with John Jones right now? Do you think he's stalling or?
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. Apparently he was training, like lifting weights, getting heavier. Training to fight heavyweight, but I'm not too sure where his head's at really. But also another good matchup would be Masvidal versus like McGregor or something like that.
Oh, that would be crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it, those two have had probably some of the biggest runs. I reckon 2019 was the year of Masvidal.
Yeah, for sure.
And then McGregor's always been one of the biggest most marketable. I think that would probably be the most marketable fight, considering they've both come off losses now, 2 losses, and they both dropped down in the rankings, and they both can fight each other at welterweight because, McGregor's had a couple of fights at welterweight and now a few fights at welterweight, and now he's thought he was going to have a good time in the division. And then Masvidal was looking for that resurgence ever since he lost twice now to Kamaru Usman. So I think that would be an insane matchup that I'm surprised no one's actually even talking about either. So good on you for that. Anyway, man, let's go back to you, man. Let's get back to the conversation topic with you. I wanted to ask you, man, for someone who's fights at flyweight, outside of your obviously outside of fight training, do you do any form of strength and conditioning?
Yeah, we'll then run the strength conditioning, and that's by Kevin Cophammer, and he runs the strength and conditioning. So we should do maybe a strength and conditioning and then a no-gi, or a strength and conditioning and then boxing maybe. And then we do some weights at home, go for runs, do some weights. That's about it with strength and conditioning. Not too much.
And with your strength conditioning, what's a typical session like for you? What do you guys mainly focus on?
Just depends really. Sometimes it could be on the pads or the bag, or sometimes it could be like a HIIT workout, circuit workout, like a lot of body weight maybe, like a body weight circuit.
That's good to hear. And what the next thing was to say was, what about in terms of like your nutrition? How does that, do you have anyone helping you out with that, or do you do that mainly yourself?
Yeah, so the last 2 fight camps is just me and my brother. So we just, no one's really helping us. It's just, we're just doing our own thing. Slow the carb intake.
Fair enough. Okay. And the last thing is I wanted to ask you is like, how does it go for you in terms of recovery? Like, is there anything you do specifically to help you recover from training sessions?
Yeah, just sometimes having like Epsom salt baths, and then going to the sauna, maybe sauna steam room, and then just maybe rolling out, stretching after and before training. That's about it, really.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I understand that when it comes to leading up to fights, you know, the nerves can kick in. As you know, it can be very overwhelming. Considering, you know, one thing I'm so proud of is how much support you have behind you when it came to Eternal as well. And one thing I was so proud of is how much support Perth gives to the MMA scene in general. Personally, myself, a few years ago, if you'd asked me much about MMA, all I knew was a lot of stuff about UFC or one championships at Bellator. And then when I found out about all the local gyms, local scenes, I think it's brilliant that how quickly the sports progress. Now, the life of a fighter is obviously most of them I've spoken to can be very selfish. Considering that, you know, you're training all day, you're very focused on getting better, you know, you're literally in the hurt business, you know. So I understand mentally it can be very daunting. So one thing I always like to ask every fighter is like, what do you guys do to, you know, relax? Or do you guys like take a day off? Or do you have any activities that help you unwind?
No, not really. Like just playing games, watching movies.
Oh yeah?
Relaxing.
What games are you playing?
Call of Duty, Black Ops, UFC quite a bit, UFC 4.
Yeah.
And then got a rivalry with my twin Frank. Me and him always play UFC. And then maybe some GTA. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what's it like growing up with a twin then?
Yeah, it's good. Like everything in common. Like in high school, going from friend group basically, and just me and him. And we're pretty close. It's good though. Yeah,
that's
good. Very
awesome.
competitive with each other. Every time we train, rolling or sparring.
That's good.
That sort of brings out the ego inside of us when we go against each other.
That's brilliant. At least, I mean, if it helps you, man, that helps you. I mean, we would love to have, honestly, man, one thing I tell you what, we would love to have both of you guys on in the future for like in-person podcasts as well, because I feel like having both of you guys together would be awesome and all that. So that could definitely be something down the road. And then I'd love to speak to him personally. Now, but anyway, today's about 2-minute conversations about you. I wanted to ask you, what do you plan to do for the rest of the year? And also, where do you hope to see yourself in 5 years?
With my martial arts training?
Yes.
Keep going at it. Just keep at the grind, really. Keep training try to keep improving. And then when match-ups or competitions come down the line, take them and then just compete, enjoy the process really. And yeah, and hopefully in 5 years, I've got a few fights, maybe a few titles.
And let me just ask you this. Is there anyone in particular that you've got eyes on, regardless of organization, who you'd like to fight?
No, no one.
No one? That's
no
fair. No one at all?
No.
That's all good, man. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. I really appreciate the time for you today, man. You've been a hell of a guest and all that. And I just want to say, before I let you go, are there any shout outs you want to give? Is there anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, like everyone down at Wolfspen, all my coaches, and even everyone at Coach Training Center, my gym in Townsville. Yeah, and just all my training partners, my brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much, man. Hope you enjoyed that.
Sweet.
And I will catch
cheers,
you
guys.
soon. Catch you soon.
Yeah.
Okay.